Redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. We are your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Guys, I want to focus in on a topic today, and that is I believe that the left is grooming or recruiting trans or pronoun assassins or terrorists. And I want to talk about that. And I know the name sounds a little punchy and hyperbolic perhaps, even, but it is true. And I'm getting ready to go over some data points with you to prove that it is true. Listen, guys, when you remove the love of God, love of country, the love of self and self-worth, in other words, you have to be someone else instead of whom God created you to be. When you remove all of that from society, you're going to get chaos. You're going to get chaos. When you move the love of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, when you remove all of that from American society, you are going to get chaos. And that is exactly what we are seeing with the left as they groom trans terrorists. And we're getting into that next, right after some quick program messaging. All right, guys, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast, Apple, Google. We're on Spotify. Please subscribe to our YouTube or Rumble page or both. YouTube and Rumble, thecarljacksonshow.com is where you can find us. Also, find me on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Getter, Facebook, Truth Social, wherever I can be found. I can on social media. I can be found at the Carl Jackson Show. Guys, a couple of movies that I want to talk to you about before I get started on what's happening in America, the rise of the pronoun terrorists or the rise of the trans terrorists or the grooming of the trans terrorists. Not exactly sure what I want to call it today, but it will be along those lines. Nonetheless, that is basically the thing. But I do want to tell you about a new movie that's out that Salem is promoting, and it is called Nefarious. It stars Sean Patrick Flannery, of the Boondock Saints, The Dead Zone, and Powder, and Jordan Belfi, who played in Entourage. It's written and directed by Carrie Solomon and Chuck Konzelman, who's the creator of God's Not Dead and Do You Believe? All right, so the movie goes as such, or at least the summary. On the day of his scheduled execution, a convicted serial killer gets a psychiatric evaluation during which he claims he is a demon and further claims that before their time is over, the psychiatrist will commit 3 murders of his own. Okay. This sounds intriguing. The film is rated R for some violent elements and is a psychological thriller. So it's unlike most of the films that Salem has promoted in the past. But the writers, directors bring a faith perspective to the story, which has drawn comparisons to C.S. Lewis's Screw Tape Letter. So go and check out the movie Nefarious. All right, check it out. We really listen, salemnow.com. You can find it there. So salemnow.com. Check out the movie Nefarious. That's going to be pretty cool. I can't wait to check that out myself. If I'm not mistaken, that was this is from Steve Dace. Steve Dace, who I believe used to be with Salem, and then he's with the Blaze. But I believe he wrote a book to this, and now I think they've made a movie out of it. From everything that I've heard thus far, it is a wonderful film and one that you should check out and go see. And speaking of wonderful films, let me talk to you about one more film, Pardoned by Grace. From the makers of Graham Family Films comes a powerful and inspiring true story that will touch your heart and renew your faith. I love these independent films that are popping out. Introducing Pardoned by Grace. This is the incredible journey of Scott Heiberger. He's played by Joey Lawrence. He's a convicted criminal turned prison minister who defies all odds and receives an unlikely pardon to continue his ministry. Featuring Grammy Award winning singer-songwriter Michael W. Smith as Heiberger's pastor, Pardoned by Grace showcases the transformative power of redemption and the boundless reach of God's love. Watch Pardoned by Grace on Salem Now, and when you purchase a copy at salemnow.com, a DVD will be donated to Scott Heiberger's nonprofit prison organization, which is called Behind the Wire Ministries, providing hope and support to the incarcerated. together we can share the power of faith and forgiveness with those who need it most. Visit salemnow.com to purchase your DVD and donate to this incredible cause today. Okay, guys, a couple of stories that I want to bring to your attention before we take a deep dive into these trans terrorists that are being groomed, that are being raised, that are being recruited by the left, because I do think we are living in very dangerous times, and I simply want you to be aware, and I want you to get prepared. My colleagues at the TheAnswerOrlando.com or AM 950 The Answer 94.9 FM, when I go into the radio studio, to fill in for some of the national hosts, my colleagues, the American Adversaries, have a colleague of theirs that appears on their show weekly that was attacked, that was assaulted, that was cold-cocked from behind his back. He was wearing a T-shirt that I believe they created. The T-shirt says, "You've seen me wear it on the podcast before. Trump won." He was walking through the street, downtown Orlando area. Someone said, "F Trump," punched him from behind. I mean, just cold-cocked the guy from behind his back. He falls to the ground, busts his face and nose. Expect more of this. I'm not. I think one of the things about me, and I want to say weird, but I don't think it's weird. I think this might apply to anyone that has grown up in a semi or dangerous environment. You kind of learn to keep your head on a swivel. You learn what many call colloquially street smarts. And it's one of the things that I've learned. Like, I never expect things not to happen to me. And I don't want to be someone that's just on the radio or just in podcasts, just talking. Even though I do believe that's a ministry, but sometimes it's hard for me because I really would like to be more active than I am. And I'm hoping that my schedule will, I'm working to free up my schedule so I can be a little more active than I am now. But growing up the way that I did, you learn to keep your head on a swivel. You learn to understand that, of course, this stuff can happen to you. There's always an element of disbelief. Obviously, when my mom passed away, it was disbelief. But when you're talking about crime, speaking specifically of crime, I've been I guess you could call the victim of two criminal assaults, violent criminal assaults. Thank God, of which I survived. So I've learned the lesson the hard way to never believe that something cannot happen to you, and to the best of your ability to be prepared when it comes to physical assaults, criminal activity, so on, etc. You just never know when it's going to happen to you. Now, what the left is doing is making sure that you're aware that it could happen to you too. And I'm speaking of a violent crime. I'm speaking of a violent assault. And they're even going so far as to say that if you defend yourself or send a message, at least like they did with Daniel Perry, I believe the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, is going to pardon him, although it is a weird story. We'll show you a short clip of his sentencing and his reaction, and a family member, perhaps his mother's reaction. You're talking about a veteran who was defending his life that is being sent to prison for God knows how long. Thank God Greg Abbott is willing to step in because a Black Lives Matter supporter and supporters surrounded his vehicle in Texas. The guy has a revolver. He shoots and kills the guy that was pointing an AK-47 at him, for God's sakes, at his car, where there were, over a dozen people surrounding his car. The guy couldn't escape without running people over, so he defends his life and he gets sent to prison. The left is trying to send a message that listen, you're not going to be able to defend yourself. We are going to send our little brown shirts, whether that's Antifa, whether that's BLM, whether that's the new trans terrorists that we are cultivating in our culture. We are going to send them after you. We are going to send them to attack you and intimidate you until you comply. And if you don't comply, we will use force until you do comply. That's what the left is doing. That's what the left is doing. That's what the left is saying to us. There was another shooter yesterday at a bank in Louisville. Let me pull up the story real quick because this is really important. really important that I touch on this story that I thought I had pulled up and I didn't. Anyway, the old, you know what? It's on the tip sheet, so let me go there. I had it pulled up in a separate column, but I'm pretty sure it is on the tip sheet this morning. So I just want to read the headline to you. And then there's another really important headline. And I want to dive right into this. I'm not going to do the Jackson's 5, the normal thing, if you will, because I think this is really important. And I want you guys to be prepared. Here it is. Louisville bank shooter was employed by Old National Bank. This kid was only 23 years old. Apparently, he had interned with the bank for approximately 3 years before becoming full-time at the bank. There's speculation that he was getting ready to be fired. This could have been part of it. I'll go into a detailed story and some stats that are outlining the amount of assaults and attacks against Christian churches and Catholic churches across the country. I think this played a part, specifically when it comes to Louisville, Kentucky, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But you had a gunman that opened fire. I believe he killed at least 4 people, including a close friend of the governor. The governor is already talking about gun control because that's where the left goes. But the governor is talking about gun control, and I know that it's a heated topic, but there are stats and there's facts out there. These fools always run to gun control when the issue should be victim control. How do we make sure that we get a lot fewer victims when we get mass shooters like this? But this guy wrote some very damning stuff, and unfortunately, I can't. I can't find the article that I pulled up earlier, but the guy essentially said he live streamed some of the attack. He said exactly what he was going to do. He also said that listen, they're not listening to us, they're not hearing us. So I'm paraphrasing. So I'm gonna have to act. I'm gonna do something about it. And he was speaking about the basically the pronoun movement. He referred to himself as a he, him. I believe this was a guy that was a star, by the way, in high school sports. He played basketball. He played football. He ran track. There's pictures of him out there wearing a helmet when he played basketball because he had endured so many concussions from when he played from playing football in high school. But by all accounts, this guy was a fabulous athlete. So imagine what type of damage he could do. Plus, he played basketball and football. You know, the guy is going to be strong. He's probably going to be relatively tall. Good physique and so on, et cetera. And that appeared to be. But if you see a picture of this guy, you would never know it. Perhaps that's the thumbnail we should create, Gabe. But you would never know it. You would never know it. But anyway, these people are coming, and they are coming after us, and I think in large part due to what the left is doing. There are plenty of columns that have not been talked about much, and I want to make sure that we do that. Did you guys know that there was another trans suspect with the Communist Manifesto that was arrested for planning school shootings at schools and churches? No, I'm not talking about the Covenant School mass murderer. I'm not talking about that trans terrorist. And by the way, where's the manifesto? But I'm not talking about that person. Hat tip Daily Wire. This is literally 5 days ago that they wrote this, but it was nearly 2 weeks ago that they discovered this other potential trans terrorist. Right after the Covenant school shooting, a few days after. Here's the summary. Law enforcement officials in Colorado have arrested a transgender individual with the Communist Manifesto for allegedly planning mass shootings at schools and churches in the area. Have you heard about this? Is the media, the mainstream media, telling you about this? The arrest happened on March 31st, just days after the Covenant School massacre by another trans terrorist. The aspiring mass public shooter is a male who identifies or goes by a female name and uses she, her pronouns. She, her pronouns. Maybe this should be titled the rise of the pronoun terrorist. I'm not sure. The charges against that criminal it's a 19-year-old dude that thinks he's a girl. The The charges are criminal attempt to commit murder in the first degree, 2 counts, criminal mischief, menacing, and interference with staff, faculty, or students or educational institutions. This person had a couple of targets in mind: Timberview Middle School, Prairie Hills Elementary, Pine Creek High School, and other targets, quote unquote, were churches, according to a report by KRDO. I'm assuming a local news organization. A family member turned the suspect in, called 911, and said that they had threatened to shoot up schools. This person had severe anger issues. So thank God for that family member that was willing. Hey, I heard something. I'm going to go ahead and call the cops now, make sure that this doesn't transpire. So thank God that family member did so. Honestly, that can't be an easy thing to do, despite the fact that someone is talking crazy. No one can imagine their family member going out and just murdering, assassinating people. But guys, this is the society that the left has created. Let me tell you something. No one is safe with Democrats in charge. No one is safe with Democrats in charge. Look at the blue cities. Look at the rise in crime in blue cities. Violent crime, petty crime. Look at the rise. Just go Google. Go research for yourself the rise in crime in blue cities, particularly since the lockdown. They were already bad, but particularly since the lockdowns. You got crime in places like, look at Alvin Bragg in New York City, where many of the crimes are up violent crime is up 27%, I believe. And this guy is trying to figure out how to make a misdemeanor a felony to go after Trump, but he's taking felons and turning their charges into misdemeanors, lowering charges to allow them back on the streets. These people are an absolute joke. So wherever Democrats are, you're not safe. And I want you to understand that. I want you to get that through your mind. Guys, we have to get out of this phase of denial. We are in denial when it comes to so many things about what's happening with our country. Sometimes I downrun. I'm not going to lie to you. Last night, I started thinking about this, and I just started ruminating on this. And I really got into a funk myself, because I'm looking at the greatest country in the world that the left is attempting to bring down. And we're not done yet. I believe as long as patriots are alive and well, America is not dead. But we do have to fight, and we do have to recognize the times that we live in. But first and foremost, I want you to be safe. I want you to be safe, and I want you to recognize the threat. These people are creating terrorists that are going to go after Christians, that are going to go after Catholics and Jews and people of faith, that are going to go after anyone that they believe are a threat to them. And when I say a threat to them, it's not like we'll do bodily harm to them. Conservatives, Republicans, or whatever. We're not going after blacks. We're not going after trans people, as the left would say. We're not homophobes. We're not. Yeah, even though that word drives me nuts, because it doesn't even make sense. Like, we have a phobia of gays, transphobes, like we have a phobia. No, we're just here speaking common sense. We're here speaking truth. Something that a lot of Americans did, even on the other side of the aisle, did just a few years ago. It's absolutely insane. The suspect, this potential Colorado mass shooter, was in the process of transitioning. I'm sorry. This is a mental disorder. Oh, by the way, this Louisville bank shooter, again, he identified as a him online, but the Louisville shooter, I just mentioned it. He identified as a him, but he had several concussions. And so some are wondering if CTE had a role to play in that. I don't know enough about CTE. I wonder if there's hype to it. Sometimes I simply don't know. But this apparently is a phenomenon with many athletes that suffer a lot of injuries to the head, concussions particularly, and so they're plagued with CTE apparently. Although I do have to ask the question. There's always room for questions, right? A lot of girls that play soccer get more concussions. Did you know that? than boys that play football. At least those were the stats a few years ago. I wonder if that's still the case. And if so, I don't see a bunch of girl soccer players going out and shooting up people. So just makes you wonder. I always like to question. So this here's the living conditions of this suspect, just so you know that the person is not or was not normal. This person lived in trash that was piled up all around, according to police. The house to where it made it hard to walk inside, they said. There were numerous containers filled with half-eaten food with mold growing inside, and numerous alcoholic beverage containers laying around the house, close quote. You're telling me this person is stable? These terrorists at the left are grooming are not, they're not mentally stable people. They're not. And the left knows this. The left knows this. That and mentally unstable people and the onslaught of peer pressure that's on social media, where you get clicks and likes by affirming what other people believe rather than by being an individual. It's absolutely amazing. The suspect allegedly punched holes in the wall inside the house and ripped a door off the hinges. That's a strong girl, except it's a dude, and that's why he can do that. The suspect admitted to cops that he'd been planning the attacks for about a month. The suspect allegedly visibly shook his head, indicating yes, close quote, when asked by law enforcement if he was going to shoot up the school. And again, he had been planning it for a month. Evidence collected inside the house included the suspect's manifesto, the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx. That's weird. That's weird. So a trans shooter, a potential shooter, potential mass murderer, was reading the Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels. I want to just interject. Imagine if this person had been reading the Word of God. Imagine. The suspect allegedly researched how to 3D print firearms, made detailed list of numerous people to target, gathered information about how to make bombs, and made commentary about notorious mass shooters, serial killers, and politicians. Guys, there's a headline that I'm about to get into some stats shortly here. A couple of headlines. Attacks against churches nearly triple so far in 2023. A report finds another headline, both from the Daily Signal, of trans-genocide rhetoric isn't stifled. Expect more violence from the left. What do you expect people to do? Mentally unstable people to do? What do you expect them to do when you tell them there's a Holocaust coming your way? That people on the right, that Christians, that conservatives, or Jews are looking to get rid of them. How do you expect people to behave? What do you expect people to do? The left knows exactly what they're doing. They're rising up. They're raising up. They're grooming trans terrorists. That's exactly what they're doing. But it's not just going to be trans people. It's going to be the pronoun people. It's going to be anyone that doesn't have the love of God, the love of country, the love of self-worth, or the love of self, the love of life. They're going to come after you. And that's exactly what the left is creating. A bunch of miserable people and that are blaming you for their misery. That's what the left is creating. So I want you to be aware. I want you to be alert. I want you to keep your head on a swivel. I want you to get out of denial. I don't want you to believe that this cannot happen to you, that violence cannot happen to you. As a matter of fact, I want you to do this. And I don't say this to scare you, but I want you to do this. I want you to start believing that violence is coming your way, because that's the only way that you're going to prepare adequately. And that's the only way that you're going to stay semi-safe. Now, you can't control that somebody comes behind you like they did my colleague from the American Adversaries and cold cocks you in the back of the head. You're not going to be able to, that can happen, right? But hopefully you're kind of keeping wherever you are, keep your head on a swivel, because the world is going crazy. America is going crazy. Let me just bring you this news, and then I want to get to a couple of videos real quickly here. Guys, listen, the market is going haywire when it comes to money. I want you to make sure that you have tangible assets. All right. That's real estate. That's gold. That's honestly, that's food supplies. But I want to talk to you about the Birch Gold Group. Inflation has consequences as the Fed raises interest rates to combat out of control government spending. Long-term bonds have diminished in value, crippling banks. And by the way, I'm not sure if you guys heard Steve Moore on TV with the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. Used to be with the Heritage Foundation. He's an economist. Biden is looking to increase our national debt to $50 trillion. We're in the low 30s right now. What do you think that's going to do to the dollar? There's a reason why people are looking at the dollar. Macron, French president, has just hooked up with Xi Jinping of China. They're getting away from the US dollar. Depositors are holding their breath and investors are bailing on bank stocks. Diversification has never been more important. The recent surge in gold prices is directly tied to the extreme market volatility right now. This is why gold has historically been a great hedge against the stock market and against inflation. The only company I trust to help you diversify into gold is the Birch Gold Group. Call or text Carl to 989898 and you'll get a free info kit on gold. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or a 401k that's tied to a volatile market into an IRA in physical precious metals, gold and silver. And the best part, it's tax sheltered. Again, text Carl to 989898 to claim your free info kit on gold today with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers trust Birch Gold to protect their future. You can too. Text Carl to 989898 today. Okay, Gabe, let's go ahead and roll the video. This is the video of the Anheuser-Busch VP of sorts that was brought in to help with marketing. She ended up hiring Dylan Mulvaney. The market cap for Bud Light, Anheuser-Busch, is down $4 billion because this idiot made a horrible decision. This lady herself is clearly unstable. It's obvious to me that she has gone to woke colleges. But guys, I want you to understand this trans propaganda has promulgated everything. It has permeated every piece of society. Yet you have the left teaching these people, teaching these mentally unstable people that Christians and conservatives and patriots are coming after them. Transgenocide. How is it transgenocide? Simply because we're saying that men are women, men are men, and women are women. But if you're taught that people are coming after you, if you taught there's a Holocaust coming your way, don't you have a moral obligation to stop that genocide? Guys, there's no such thing as transphobia in America. It seems to me that there's trans propaganda. Gabe, let's roll the video.
I'm a businesswoman. I had a really clear job to do when I took over Bud Light. And it was, this brand is in decline. It's been in decline for a really long time. And if we do not attract young drinkers to come and drink this brand, there will be no future for Bud Light. So I had this super clear mandate. It's like we need to evolve and elevate this incredibly iconic brand. And what I brought to that was a belief in, okay, what does evolve and elevate mean? It means inclusivity. It means shifting the tone. It means having a campaign that's truly inclusive and feels lighter and brighter and different and appeals to women and to men. And representation is at sort of the heart of evolution. You've got to see people who reflect you in the work. And we had this hangover. I mean, Bud Light had been kind of a brand of fratty, kind of out of touch humor. And it was really important that we had another approach.
Speaking of out of touch, this is a woman that apparently doesn't know what a woman is and doesn't know what a man is, and is willing to hire a dude that's pretending to be a woman. And you know what? These aren't my own words, but I've been listening to some people opine on this, and I think they've got it right. I've heard people describe this as what Dylan Mulvaney is doing as woman face, essentially, what blackface used to be, where people would, whites would wear blackface in order to mock blacks. This is what appears to be happening. Actually, this is what I believe is happening with Dylan Mulvaney. Women are always pretty, always made up, always dumb, always peppy, always, you know what I mean? It's absolutely weird to me that people would that people would take this guy seriously. Dylan Mulvaney, he's making buttloads of money off of these endorsements from Bud Light or Anheuser-Busch and Nike and the such, but real female heroes are being put to the side. And this chick, this Anheuser-Busch chick, the VP of marketing here, wants to pretend like she's done something amazing. I mean, talking about, again, being out of touch. How is it that you don't even know your customers? How is it that you don't even understand your base? And I got to tell you, I think this is part of the problem with a bunch of these lefties and these left-wing kook females like that chick. I mean, she doesn't understand what it means to be a man. And apparently not what it means to be a woman, because she mocks the woman, and then she assumes that men and young men, I presumably, I don't drink, so I don't know, but presumably young men or even older men that are going to bars, these are people that are brand loyal, that are going to go to a bar or go to a grocery store or liquor store. They're going to buy Bud Light. She doesn't even know her audience. I mean, it's amazing to me. Why would you hire someone like this, Anheuser-Busch? So as a result of that very dumb hire by Anheuser-Busch, they've lost a market cap of $4 billion just since that Dylan Mulvaney ad ran. And my hopes is that they'll lose a lot more, and that some of you people out there will go completely dry or find another brand altogether. From what I understand, Anheuser-Busch pretty much covers the market. I think they embody about 70% of the beer market, if I've heard correctly. You guys feel free to correct me and in messaging or what have you, right on Facebook or Twitter even. Feel free to message me. But I believe they cover about 70% of the beer market. But there's other beers out there. There's up and comers out there as well. But I wanted to show that because there is no transphobia. There is no trans genocide. We've literally been bombarded with this stuff over the last couple of years. It's like it's appeared out of nowhere. And then if you disagree with it, if you have common sense, if you believe what almost the entire whole of America believed just 4-5 years ago, you're the one that's insane. You're the one that's committing trans genocide just because you believe a man is a man and a woman is a woman. Something that everyone believed except 1% of the population. Actually, take that back. I think it's like 1/10 of 1% of the population when it comes to the trans population. Now we just see an all-out fad. Why are we seeing an all-out fad of people that want to be trans? I'll tell you why. Because we've told our kids that blacks are special and minorities are special. Right? We've told them the gays are special. But if you happen to be white, if you happen to be a male, or you happen to be white and you happen to be a female, you don't belong. But you belong a little more because you're a female. But if you go trans, if you go gay, oh man, you're in the in crowd, according to whatever social media app you're on. It's astounding. Now, let me give you some stats. And there's no wonder that these stats occur. But before I do, let me talk to you about my friends, MyPillow. Guys, MyPillow, you need a good night's rest? I was struggling last night, I'm not going to lie, but good thing I did have MyPillow, my new MyPillow 2.0, just when you thought things couldn't get any better. Mike Lindell at MyPillow came out with the new MyPillow 2.0. Now, the new MyPillow 2.0 has the same patented feel of the original MyPillow that has been around for 20 years, but it has this it has the same patented feel, but now it has this brand new fabric that is made with temperature regulating thread. So the pillow is now, it dissipates heat, it makes it softer, it makes it smoother, it makes it cooler when you lay your head down to rest. For my listeners exclusively, the MyPillow 2.0 is a buy one, get one free offer when you use the promo code Carl. All you have to do is go to the radio listener square at the top of the page at mypillow.com, enter my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, or if you prefer, you can give them a call at 800-858-0263. These products come with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you cannot go wrong with this product, guys. So again, mypillow.com. Click on the radio listener square, enter my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, at the top of the page, or give them a call and mention my name, 800-858-0263. Get yourself the new My Pillows 2.0, plural, because it is a buy one, get one free offer. Now, Hat Tip Daily Signal. If trans-genocide rhetoric isn't stifled, you can expect more violence from the left. I forgot to mention something that I want to mention to you guys really quick, because this is very big news. This was on the tip sheet for today. And I think this is promising for freedom lovers across the country. Basically, the emergency order, if I can get into my laptop, the emergency order, the COVID emergency order is dead. It is officially over. Here it is. Biden finally ends the pandemic. This, as of Monday, Biden signed into law HJ Resolution 7, which terminates the national emergency related to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is great news. They held on to this for as long as they could. I think this is probably indicative that Biden is going to run for president. He had to get rid of this. People are still perturbed about this. A lot of people lost livelihoods as a result of as a result of that order. Friends, family, you name it. Real development. Biden finally ends the national COVID emergency. 3 years of ruined lives, closed businesses. That's right. Fake science and destruction of kids. I know they will try another power grab, but at least this one, but at least this one is behind us. That's a tweet from somebody from Real Development. All right, but that's true. Ruined lives, closed businesses, fake science, the destruction of kids, and I believe, and this is just me speaking, but I believe some unnecessary deaths. If you listen to some of the honest scientists that were out there, there's a lot of preventative measures that could have been taken place that were not. But anyway, that finally ends. And honestly, that gives those of us that are conservative some leeway. I think this is important for the swing states too, because remember, Democrats were using a lot of this or this national emergency as an excuse, in my opinion, to rig the elections when it came to ballots, when it came to people not being able to observe, Republicans not being able to observe ballots in some of these swing states. So I think all of that can make a difference in the election, assuming that we have Republicans on the ground and the RNC are working with activists to make sure where it is legal, we are in swing states, we are doing our part to register voters, collect signatures, and where legal, collect ballots. All right. So that is very big news. Biden finally ends the pandemic. Okay. Now, let me close this out with this. Again, we're talking about how the left is training trans assassins against you. Guys, I want you to expect violence, because I want you to be safe. And I really don't know. I was communicating with my buddy Christopher Hart of the American Adversaries last night, and he's a little older than me. And I was asking him, have you seen a time in America? It's one thing to read about it, but when people live through it, that's why you should respect your elders, man. They just have, and I'm not saying the American Adversaries are my elders per se, but they are older than me. So they're going to have, they're like many of you, when you speak to friends, family members that are older than you, they've lived through stuff. They've seen stuff that you haven't seen. And so even though I can read about it, there's nothing like being in the moment. And I was asking Chris Hart if he had experienced America like this before, had it been this divisive, had it been this bad. And he did take me back to the Carter years, but obviously with the advent of technology, social media, everything is intensified. It's amazing. Now, if trans-genocide rhetoric isn't stifled, expect more violence from the left. Here's a summary. This from Douglas Blair of the Daily Signal. As states continue to pass laws protecting children from permanent genital mutilation at the hands of gender-obsessed cultists, radical transgender activists have begun touting a new slogan in an attempt to garner public sympathy. Stop trans-genocide. Guys, this is so dangerous. This rhetoric is so dangerous. Again, what the heck is it even? Popular Twitch streamer Keffels released a video on YouTube quote, Texas is preparing for genocide, close quote, while another online leftist, Vosh, argued that, quote, Trump's new anti-trans speech is borderline genocidal. Okay? So if these pronoun terrorists see you wearing a Trump shirt, a MAGA hat, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, I'm just saying being aware, don't think that these people won't be incited or haven't already been incited for violence against you. If this is true, if there's a such thing as transgenocide, don't you think these people have a moral obligation to go after you? To stop it by any means necessary? That's what happened with the Covenant shooter, I believe. That's why I believe they're not releasing the manifesto. And then you have the trans shooter that, thank God, it didn't come to fruition in Colorado, but just a few days later, they planned to shoot up churches and schools alike. There's no looming Holocaust. But genocide, when you use that word, what is it? It's a word designed to evoke images of the worst atrocities of the 20th century. The writer says we must prevent those evil Republicans, and he's being sarcastic, from passing bills preventing children from taking hormone blockers or getting mastectomies. This is, the left believes we're evil. Or these mentally unstable people on the left believe we're evil because we're stopping or we're preventing children from destroying their bodies at a young age when their minds aren't even at an age where they're fully matured so they could understand the damage that they're doing to their bodies. And I got to be frank, if you're this mentally ill where you're willing to chop off body parts, I question if you're ever stable. I don't care if you're 25, 30, 40 years old. But there's no looming Holocaust. But the Democrats, the media, they're conspiring to make sure this is what these people feel because they know these mentally unstable people will go after us, just like the Antifa, just like BLM. They'll go after us. Far more often, the writer writes, accusations of hatred and bigotry against trans people are in actuality just refusals to completely acquiesce to the activists' insane demands. He goes on to say sarcastically again, won't use she, her pronouns for a bearded man in a dress or think that women's sports should be for actual women. Well, that's basically Hitlerian, he says. And you're engaging in transgenocide. That's what happened to Riley Gaines at San Francisco State. She was attacked by a dude, punched by a dude, had to be locked up in a closet for hours. It's a lie, but it's a dangerous lie. Transgenocide. If trans activists genuinely believe what is happening is equivalent to genocide, again, this is according to him. I've said it, but this is according to him. They have a moral responsibility to stop it. J.K. Rowling, you guys know her, author of the Harry Potter series, has become a cesspool. Her inbox has become a cesspool of death threats. She's received so many threats from radical LGBT zealots that she, quote, could paper the house with them, close quote. And you know she's got a massive house. In response to even more gender fanatics posting her address online for the world to see, Rowling suggested, quote, the best way to prove your movement isn't a threat to women is to stop stalking, harassing, and threatening us, she says. Then there's Posey Parker. Posey Parker, you guys may have saw last week in Auckland, New Zealand. A women's rights activist, again, Posey Parker, was violently accosted at a rally by a biological man posing as a woman who poured red liquid over her. There was also an elderly woman at that event that got punched in a face by a dude pretending to be a woman. Don't think violence isn't caused and coming your way. The left is raising up terrorists. They're raising up trans terrorists, BLM terrorists, Antifa terrorists, she, him terrorists, like we saw with the bait Twitter, just straight up pronoun terrorists. They are raising up terrorists. They are raising up their brown shirts. And I'm not being hyperbolic. You guys see it for yourselves. These people are violent. These people are insane. And part of the reason why I believe they are insane, actually, I've been thinking about this and I've read some on this. Conservatism, I should say, has come a long way since the hippies of the 60s. We fought it, and successfully so. Places like Florida has recently implemented concealed carry in our state. It doesn't take effect until July, but it is now here. And we've had a lot of victories like this. So you can imagine that the left feels as though they're an existential threat. This is why I think they hate Trump. This is why they hate DeSantis. I like both of these guys. I believe the left looks at both of them, particularly Trump, though. That's why they're going after him so hard, as an existential threat to the left. Biden is in. Biden's policies are a disaster. So Trump can come in and restore a lot of things. I don't think he'll be able to restore all things in 4 years, but I think the economy and such will get much better. I think there will still be culture wars like nobody's business. But that's just the truth of the situation. That's just the truth of the situation. So times will continue to get crazy, but I think they view Trump, the left does, as an existential threat. So they will go after him like crazy. All right. And that's what they'll continue to do. Another thing that I want to mention real quickly here. Okay. The attacks against churches have nearly tripled so far in 2023. The attacks have tripled in 2023. So last week's mass murder of 6 people at the Covenant Christian School. Now it's been a couple of weeks. This was written nearly a week ago. The deadliest act of violence against churches, which have increased nearly 3 times since the deadliest act of violence. Let me read that again. Since the Covenant school shootings, 2023's deadliest act of violence against churches, it was have increased nearly 3 times this year compared to last year. This, according to a new report by the Family Research Council. I'm sorry, I'm getting a call in, guys, so I'm half like anyway, just trying to silence my phone here. The number of anti-church attacks in 2022 already tripled over 4 years. A previous report found assailants attacked churches 69 times in the first 3 months of 2023. 69 times in the first 3 months of 2023 compared to 24 such acts during the same period last year. So during the same period last year, and this was before Roe v. Wade and all this kind of stuff, or Dobbs versus Jackson, but you're talking about an increase on the attacks of churches are up 288%. The rising tempo of anti-Christian assaults, which includes arsons, bomb threats, vandalism, and sacrilege, has affected places of worship in 29 states. American churches, according to the Family Research Council, are increasingly bearing the brunt of anger and aggression, whether that's from political or other motivations. This contributes to an environment of hostility toward Christianity. 53 incidents of vandalism, 10 suspicious fires, 3 gun-related incidents, 3 bomb threats, including a pipe bomb recovered outside Philadelphia's 127-year-old Dominican Catholic Church. These are the anti-church aggressions that are documented just between January and March of this year. Before we go out, I want to play this one last clip. This is of Daniel Perry, because I want you to understand that as the attacks increase against us, against people that love America, against Christians, against conservatives, Catholic, Jews, people that love America, as attacks against us increase, let me show you what the left is doing. You hear people opining on this Daniel Perry situation. This guy, I can't believe that Governor Abbott of California, or of Texas, I'm sorry, is going to release this guy. Guys, he was caught by no fault of his own in a BLM riot where they stopped his car. One of the rioters had an AK-47 in his hand, pointed it his way. The rioters would not let him go past. Thank God he had a revolver. He was able to defend your life. But if you're if you're a patriot, if you're someone that believes in the Second Amendment, if the left has their way, you're not allowed to defend your life. You know the Marxist 3 in Tennessee. The Marxist 3, they call them the Tennessee 3. I call them the Marxist 3 in Tennessee. They voted against a bill that would send or provide resources for schools in Tennessee to be able to have a experienced armed guard, background background checks, training, all that kind of, they voted no to that. So thanks to the Marxist 3 in Tennessee, I hope this isn't true, but these are the times we're living in. They may be responsible for more public mass shootings at schools and churches. But here's what you get. If you decide to defend your life, here's what the left says is in store for you. And this is why we have to kick all of these bums out of office, whatever it takes. But here's Daniel Perry. I just want you to see the reaction. And it's got to be sheer disbelief and pain, recognizing that you're going to be sent to prison for the rest of your life for obviously defending your life because a Soros-backed woke DA walks into a courtroom and finds a crime, invents a crime, and convicts you of it. Here's the reaction of Daniel Perry's family and then Daniel Perry himself. Let's roll the clip, Gabe.
Governor Greg Abbott says he will work to pardon an Army sergeant convicted in the shooting death of a protester. It happened during a Black Lives Matter demonstration in Austin. A Travis County jury yesterday convicted Daniel Perry of murder. He shot Air Force veteran Garrett Foster, who is white, 5 times during a protest in 2020. Perry was driving for Uber when he encountered Foster and other protests in downtown Austin. Perry claims he opened fire in self-defense because Foster was carrying an AK-47 rifle. But prosecutors contend Perry had other options.
We can stop the video there, but there was other video for whatever reason. We couldn't find it this morning, but you could audibly hear Daniel Perry weeping. His family member weeping and him weeping, hugging his attorney. And you can see it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Carl Jackson Show on YouTube. Also, wherever you go to get your podcast, The Carl Jackson Show, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, wherever you go to get your podcast. But you could see the guy just visibly and hear him just weeping as he hugs on his attorney. Disbelief. An Uber driver drives into a BLM riot. They surround his car. A guy points an AK-47. He cannot defend his life, or you go to jail. You see what the left is doing? If they can't take away your guns, they're going to scare you out of using them, even in the event of self-defense. Guys, man, we got a fight ahead of us. Crime is increasing against people of faith. Whether it's abortion, I have a litany of things I could list, but I won't go on for the sake of time. But places that have been specifically targeted because they're pro-life places, places where trans have defaced a historic church, the St. Joseph Catholic Church in Louisville, Kentucky. Actually, I'm glad I landed on this one because this is important, because this links up to the Louisville shooter, in my opinion. All right, let me just read this. Last month, transgender activists lashed out at Kentucky legislators who voted against their agenda by defacing an historic church. Vandals spray painted the words trans power on St. Joseph Catholic Church in Louisville, Kentucky on March 3rd, the day after the Kentucky House of Representatives passed a bill that would protect children from harmful gender transition procedures. The report states undeterred state legislatures enacted the child safety protections over Democratic Governor Andy Beshear's veto later that month. Now, that shooter at the bank, Old National Bank, said if they won't listen to us, if they won't hear us, something to that effect, they'll hear us now. They'll be able to see this, talking about him going to kill some of his work colleagues at the bank. You see a picture of the guy, you would never think that guy would be a murderer in a million years. But that will be his legacy. Frankly, I don't give a damn if he has CTE and all of this kind of stuff. A murderer is a murderer. I'm sorry. You can't convince me. There's a lot of people with CTE, a lot of people that play soccer, a lot of people that have played football that have gotten concussions. You don't see this increase, if you will, of mass public shooters among athletes. You don't. But this guy identified as he, him, another pronoun terrorist. Guys, listen, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Again, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. We would certainly appreciate it. Don't forget our sponsors, MyPillow.com, Birch Gold Group as well. You can text Carl to 989898. And guys, please go out and see the movie Nefarious. They're working with Salem. We want to get the word out. Check out the movie Nefarious. Also, you can go to salemnow.com, and get a DVD of Pardoned by Grace, or check it out on salemnow.com. That is Pardoned by Grace. So plenty coming your way. Plenty of alternative media coming your way. Alternative businesses that are looking to take care of the American patriot. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.